Và chúng ta hãy cùng chào đón lên sân khấu diễn giả Neir McGregor, giám đốc điều hành Savills Việt Nam. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Mr. Neir McGregor, Managing Director of Savills Vietnam.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure to be here this afternoon and hopefully provide a slightly broader perspective of the real estate market. I know in general the conference has been quite residential sector specific, but what I'm going to do is look at, in addition to the residential sector, where are some of the more attractive areas for investment in real estate in Vietnam. So I'll go through some sectors of interest, some insights into M&A activity that's been taking place in the market in the last year or so, and the outlook for the future. Which areas may investors be looking to for investment going forward? So first of all, this is a very recent publication released by PwC and ULI, the Urban Land Institute, and they every year pick their sectors of choice around the world. Which sectors in which cities are investors most likely to look towards? And look what came out. Ho Chi Minh City across multiple sectors as the choice destination for investors. And this is, of course, fantastic for all of us in this room, but it goes for the office sector, where they picked out Ho Chi Minh City and Tokyo as being best place for investment at this point in time. For retail, they picked out Ho Chi Minh City and Bangalore. For residential, Ho Chi Minh City and Mumbai. For industrial, Bangalore and Mumbai, but I'll counter that a little bit later as we look forward beyond 2018. And Tokyo and Ho Chi Minh City for the hotel sector. Of course, Tokyo hosting the Olympics, and a personal passion of mine, the Rugby World Cup as well in the next year or so. And then at the bottom, you can note the picks that they choose for selling. So these are markets that they recognize that investors should perhaps be looking to exit, get their money out of those markets, and hopefully put it into Vietnam. So very telling of just how strong the Vietnam market is at the moment and how popular it is amongst investors around the region. And to note that it's not just talking about Southeast Asia. It's not just talking about the more traditional markets. We're being compared with Australia, India, and so forth as well. So again, this is another part of that report, and you can see that Ho Chi Minh City, in terms of investment prospects for 2019 across all sectors, is coming out at 5.69. With the highest being Melbourne at 5.89 rating. So within the generally good category for investment prospects. And looking at the city as a whole from a development perspective, Ho Chi Minh City coming out number 2 only to Melbourne. So this is a more general, broader perspective than the first slide, where it was talking very much about specific sectors. This is the broader market, also very attractive. So I'll go through the different sectors of the market. This is Ho Chi Minh City focused, given that it's a Ho Chi Minh City audience. First of all, looking at the office sector, which is performing exceptionally well at the moment. It's one of the best office markets anywhere in the world at the moment. 97% occupancy across the entire market. In the last 12 months, we've seen 10% increases in grade A office rents, 8% increases in grade B office rents. And the reason for these increases in rents, of course, is that very tight supply, very high occupancy rates. And if you're a large office occupier, very limited options. If you're looking for 1,000 square meters of office space, you really don't have that many options around the city. And as a result, tenants are starting to realize that they need to pay a premium, and landlords are pushing their rents upwards. In addition, there isn't that much, when you look at the outlook, in terms of new supply coming on stream. Not many new grade A buildings, a few more grade B buildings, and noticeably very limited grade C. So the market is going to remain tight for some time to come. Demand is very strong, particularly from what we refer to as the FIRE sectors, so finance, insurance, real estate related demand, your manufacturing related demand, or driving more demand for office space. So we expect rents to continue to rise in the office sector. I think everyone in this room is quite familiar with the residential market. So this is the apartment for sale sector in Ho Chi Minh City. And I would refer you to this chart and the red line, the pink line on this chart, which represents the absorption rate. And in 2017, we had this exceptional absorption rate of around 75% of all primary apartment units on the market being sold. And we're set to see similar performance again this year. The problem is, for the agents in the room, there isn't enough stock. There isn't enough apartment units on the market to satisfy the demand. And a lot of the launches we were expecting have been delayed. And as a result, the new supply has dropped off significantly this year compared with last year. And demand is well ahead of that supply for the time being. Grade C, the more affordable end of the market, outperforming. Very little in the way of the luxury at the very top of the market, and grade B sitting in between. We're particularly bullish at the grade C end of the market, where the bulk of the demand is, and the luxury end, where there simply isn't much supply at the moment. Moving to the landed sector, so townhouses, shop houses, villas. Very, very small market. I believe that in the third quarter of this year, there were only around 1,200 units of primary supply in the landed property market in Ho Chi Minh City for a population of 10 million people. So as a result, again, we've got very, very strong absorption rates, very strong demand, and prices going up. What we're seeing is new markets opening up, so new infrastructure opening up, the likes of District 9, Nha Bay, Bin Chan districts, to new demand, and people the growing middle class now able to buy a 3-bedroom townhouse for the same price they would pay for a 3-bedroom apartment a little bit closer to the city. So that's fueling the demand for landed property. The hotel market, we've got these very strong visitor growth numbers. So for around 3 years now, we've seen growth in foreign visitors to Vietnam of around 25 to 30% per annum. Very, very strong. But it's not just about the foreign visitors. Vietnamese are traveling a lot more now. There's a lot more business travel between Hanoi and Ho Chi Minh, from the provinces to these major cities as well. It might not all be 5-star demand, but it's very important for the broader hotel market. So the hotel market, Hanoi had a particularly good 2017, and Ho Chi Minh City has caught up during 2018, and we expect the strength of the hospitality market in general to continue. Looking at retail, retail's having a tough time globally at the moment. A lot of you in the room will have switched your shopping habits online, or at least you're thinking about it. And that trend is only going to grow. So more and more people switching from traditional retail formats to shopping online. This is happening everywhere in the world. However, in Vietnam, we're still bullish about the traditional bricks and mortar retail formats. And it's because we've not had the oversupply of retail space that particularly China has experienced. So there's still room for growth in this market. What you will see is a much better shopping experience going forward, much better entertainment in the shopping malls, much more in the way of F&B outlet choice. So you'll be able to go to a shopping mall and spend a lot more time there with your family and have a great day out. So whilst the average rents across the city have come down, that's primarily due to new suburban malls opening up and bringing that average rent downwards. In the CBD, rents are definitely on an upward trend. So some of the M&A activity that's happening, demand from foreign investors is still coming from the traditional markets, Japan, Singapore, to a lesser extent Hong Kong, and increasingly China. But these are some of the deals that have taken place. Nomura Real Estate buying a minority stake in Sunhwa Tower, which was previously owned by Marubeni, so Japanese to Japanese. Capita Land buying some land in Hanoi on Westlake. Keppel Land increasing their stake within the Saigon Sports City project. Hong Kong Land growing their presence in the residential market, a project that has not yet launched, but is set to be launched next year on Wingdin Chu Street, a purchase from Hua Lam Group. The Vietnam Financial Center, which has been around a very, very long time, owned by Bajaya, which was sold to Vinhomes. And then you've got Alpha King entering the market, Nova Land remaining active. Fraser's Property, a relatively new entrant to the market, expanding their presence in Vietnam as well. And Mapletree, again, who have been here some time now, growing their portfolio. So some of the big players, I mentioned Alpha King, CFLD, Keppel, Fraser's, Hong Kong Land, Capita Land, and of course the big two, Vingroup and Nova Land. Also, more and more cooperation between foreigners taking minority stakes in locally developed projects. So Nam Long increasing their cooperation with their Japanese partners across a variety of projects. Another trend that we're seeing is more and more IPOs, so more and more local groups listing on the stock exchange or reaching out for capital through alternative sources. So we'll continue to see this trend. It's been very, very active this year, with some of the key transactions being GIC taking a big stake in Vinhomes, Dragon Capital, and Vina Capital buying into Sen Land. And this is a trend that we'll see grow, particularly if interest rates do start to move upwards. People are looking less for bank debt and more towards alternative capital sources. We'd like to highlight the industrial sector. So at the beginning, you may have noted that PwC and the Urban Land Institute did not highlight the industrial sector as a sector of choice in Vietnam. We disagree with that. We think the industrial sector is possibly the sector that will see the greatest growth in 2019, barring a massive slowdown in the global economy. We're seeing a noticeable shift of manufacturing from China and elsewhere to Vietnam, and we'll continue to see that shift occurring. Also opportunities in the logistics sector. So purely from a geographic point of view, servicing the growing retail market, e-commerce, and so forth, demands significant investment into logistics. And there's some big players, Warburg Pincus entering the market. You'll have seen their name before in other real estate sectors, but they are now backing the industrial sector and looking for more investments throughout the country. So in terms of some of our picks, on the residential side, we see the most growth occurring in the affordable end of the market. We think that's where the bulk of the money will go. It's very difficult for foreigners to compete at that end of the market, so they will continue to come in through local developers and access the market that way. We'll also see increased investment into prime locations. You'll have noticed in the last 12 months the increase of projects in District 1 and District 3 that we have never seen before, and we expect there to be a few more of those, albeit a relatively small number compared to the mass market, of course. On the office sector, highly sought after by investors, but very difficult for them to access. So any of you that might have some land that might be suitable for a grade A or grade B office development, please come and talk to me, because I've got a long list of investors that would be very, very interested. It's very difficult for them to access the office market, and hence why we have such strong performance and rising rents. I've talked about the industrial sector, which is on the rise. On the retail side, good potential for those that know what they're doing, but it's a very specialized sector. You have to get it right. And there is quite a lot of upcoming supply, particularly in suburban areas. Because land prices are comparatively high in Vietnam, typically retail is done as part of a mixed-use project. And we'll only see standalone retail further out of the city. But if done correctly, it can be very lucrative, but with an entertainment focus and more F&B. And on the hotel side, that will be continue to be supported by the growth in tourism, the growth in visitor numbers, the strong flow of foreign direct investment, supporting business visitors coming to Vietnam, and the lack of available stock for the bigger players to grow their portfolios. I think that may be it. Sorry. So just on a broader perspective, some of the trends that are taking place. I think there was a panel discussion there was some questions regarding the fourth industrial revolution and how that may affect Vietnam. I think a lot of the players in the room are at the forefront of what we refer to as prop tech, new technology in the real estate sector. And this is going to become more and more the case. We've seen the disruption in the banking sector, in the finance sectors. Real estate is next, and we'll start to see a lot more disruption from technology in the real estate sector going forwards. And a lot of talk around smart cities. What does it really mean to have a smart city? What are the implications? What are the investment opportunities? And what are the opportunities for the investors who can get that right? And on the other side of the screen, we have the US-China trade war and what that may mean for Vietnam. We have certainly seen an increase in inquiry, specifically from China-based manufacturers. They may be Chinese, they may be another nationality, but not necessarily closing their China operations, but in terms of expansion, looking to Southeast Asia and specifically Vietnam. I think I'll wrap up there. Thank you very much. I hope that's given some insights. And if you have questions, I think we have a panel session later.
Yes,
Thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Mr. Neil McGregor.